Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 3. This is our home away from home office, so to speak. And when I say that, we've explained to you that because of the COVID-19, we've decided to go remote on all of our production. So right now, as I said yesterday, on radio, we have a broadcast going out right now. So what you're getting here on Facebook is unique to Facebook. So again, this is where we're going to probably be doing it for the next couple of weeks as we go through the crest of this situation. Do know that our entire family is in prayer for you all, for our nation, for our leaders, and I will shut my phone off. Can you tell we're live? We got somebody sent me a breaking news alert. Well, let's see what it is. Maybe it's something important here. And yes, an infectious disease expert is going to come and answer your questions. That I can't do. I cannot answer your questions as an infectious disease expert. But what I can do is, Logan's giving me all kind of signals here because the cords are coming out. You know, it's at home, folks. People understand, Logan. It's all right. Again, so welcome to the very special broadcast for our Facebook audience. You know, I want to, instead of getting into the ins and outs of the economics of how the new bill's going to work and how the new relief's going to work, this is Good Friday, so I wanted to spend a few moments discussing something that is much more personal, and that is this is Good Friday. It's also Passover week. So to our Jewish friends that are out there, like in my family, we celebrate Passover. We're doing, it takes on a whole new meaning in light of what we're going through. There's a portion of the Passover Seder that talks about the plagues that were visited upon Egypt, and I don't want to draw any parallels there, but again, it's kind of hard not to understand what people were even going through. Even though it says in the Seder, which is the story of Passover, it says that even though they tried to slay us, talking about the Egyptians, we were to not work harm on them. We were not to wish harm on them. And I think the same here is that, look, the one thing this has done with the country and with the nations is we are all in this together. And that is, by the way, whether we are the United States, whether it's Italy, our normal allies, Iranians, Iran, which is not our ally, they're suffering as well. So you got human suffering at a scale that we really have never experienced in our lifetime. I'll tell you a couple things though. I was talking with my wife Pam this morning. This is Good Friday, and there was a sermon I remember. I'll never forget. It was by Dr. E.V. Hill, great pastor, great leader, and he gave the sermon, and the sermon title was, "It's Friday, but Sunday's coming." And the idea was, on Friday, things looked very bleak for the disciples of Jesus, of Yeshua, as I would say. It looked bleak. You had a crucified Savior. It was Friday. It was bleak. But E.V. Hill, and I could never emulate the way he would say it with such unbelievable conviction. He'd say, "It is Friday, but Sunday's coming." And I know things look very different for us right now as a country. Many of you would be prepared to attend church today, yesterday, Maundy Thursday, Friday, Good Friday services, Sunday. Remember, the church is not the building. The church is the people. And it's the same thing within many faith traditions. It's the people that are making a difference. And what Dr. E.V. Hill said, I think, is really important. We look today and we say, our economy's shut down. Unemployment's the highest it's been in decades, if not since the Great Depression. We've had to stay in our homes. I saw friends of mine doing Passover Seders where they are literally doing them via FaceTime or Zoom. And you see their family. A friend of mine that started a great Belief Net, one of the first original, what do you call it, websites dedicated to faith. Yeah, he's a brilliant guy. I saw he posted a picture of his Passover Seder, and he had on the screen 9 of his family members. And that's kind of becoming the norm. Then you turn it around, and you'd say on Sunday, you remember the phrase Easter finest, and people would dress up and get ready to go to church and experience Easter services together. But the resurrection of the Messiah took place. So somebody asked if Easter was being canceled. Where's your family Seder being canceled? And the truth is, as it relates first to Easter, Easter's not being canceled. The celebration of the resurrection is not being canceled. Rick Warren talked about this last night on CNN. And I thought it was actually quite moving what he said. Easter cannot be canceled because the resurrection of the Messiah took place 2,000 years ago. That's not going to be transposed and eliminated. So I think that's one thing we have to understand. Same thing's true with the Passover. We're instructed to celebrate the Seder, to retell to our children and our children's children the story of God's redemption of Israel from the Pharaoh in Egypt. That is a fact event that took place. So the fact that we cannot today celebrate that in the way we normally do. I mean, we've had Passover Seders in our family with, my goodness, Logan and I were talking about that yesterday, 50 people, more maybe. You can't do that. Seders are small. I do think, was it my grandkids making matzah this morning? Yeah, they were baking matzah this morning, which is great.
Stuff you can do.
Yeah, there is stuff you can do. And what that tells you is, while I can't be with all of my family, and I can't be with my extended family, the fact is, the Seder, the Passover, is a historical event. The resurrection is a historical event. So the fact that we cannot go to a particular place to celebrate it is not the elimination of that holiday. I want to give you the hope that Evie Hill left in that great sermon. If we find it, we're going to post it on the Seculo community page. I may post it on the J Seculo Facebook page. It may be too long for that, but we'll certainly post it on the community page. And that's a good way. By the way, the Seculo community Facebook page, we're posting inspirational thoughts. And our friend Dan Wheeler did a great morning cup of inspiration today that I saw this morning when I woke up. I listened to it. I said, I want to post it. I emailed, sent a text to Dan. He said, great, we posted it up. I think it's up already. But look, it is Friday. But don't forget that Sunday's coming. Now, I want to talk about a couple of other points as well. I don't know how many folks we have with us, Logan, but a few thousand people on a Friday, that's normal. I want to specifically spend just a few minutes talking about some of the cases we've got involving people that are being persecuted for their faith. I thought that'd be appropriate on Friday. And there's two in particular that have been difficult cases for us. You know, we have had, by God's grace, great results in getting people released. We saw the great release of Youssef Nardakani when he was in the Iranian prison, Saeed Abedini. We had, of course, Andrew Brunson. I mean, on and on the list goes. And then we've got two that have been difficult. Well, they're all difficult, but particularly difficult. That's Pastor Saul, who's in China, and Pastor Naren, who's from Tennessee, who is still in India, an ally of the United States. And we've yet to be able to get him returned to the United States. I expect that to be forthcoming. But I want you to think about that, not just that, but there are people all over the world that are celebrating Good Friday and that are celebrating, will be celebrating Sunday, the resurrection, or are celebrating the Passover. And they're not doing it the way they were doing it either. But let's remember those who are really this isn't persecution for our faith. This is a pandemic. The president calls it an invisible war. I think we are in a bit of a war here in that sense. I agree with the president. But I also say, let's not lose hope. Let's keep hope. I always like to show you something personal. By the way, this was day 4 pen from the impeachment hearing. I told you I was going to bring a different pen for the days that we do this. I told you, I think the first day we did this, and a lot of you that have gotten our books know that we did a 4-year project at Oxford University of Oxford, where we did research on a whole variety of issues, everything from law and economics to current Middle East policy. And I did a study of, an in-depth study for 2 years of Benjamin Disraeli. I actually found online a copy of a document that was written by Benjamin Disraeli, and it's called Unknown Documents of the Jewish Question. And the unknown documents on the Jewish question was Disraeli, who's the British Prime Minister, whose picture, the rendering I have above my head is of his house, was the first plan to establish, in the modern era, a Jewish state in Israel. And I've done extensive research on this and writing on this, and it's fascinating. I then spent a year doing Lawrence of Arabia, and read, of course, his famous treatise. And then I did a year on Winston Churchill. And I actually have two things I want to show you here. One is a speech by the Prime Minister Winston Churchill in the House of Commons, August 20th, 1940, through the World War II. This is this is number one. So when they printed them, they numbered them, and this is number one. Now, there may have been 500 number ones for all I know, but this was this was what was given to the House of Commons when he spoke. And in it, he makes this statement. A couple of things, I think. These are famous statements. It was talking about those that were engaged in fighting in the air for Great Britain during World War II. And he starts by saying the gratitude of every home in our island, it's of course talking about England, in our empire, and indeed throughout the world, goes out to the British airmen who undauntedly, by odds, unwearied in their constant challenge and mortal danger, are turning the tide of world war by their prowess and by their devotion. And then he said these famous words: never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Let me read you that again. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. And I thought about that in the context of where we are today in our history. And we have medical professional men and women. We have the military also. As the president said, are walking into those hospitals. And it's a battle zone. And in the scheme of it, it's a very few people taking care of so many. So on this Good Friday, as we prepare to celebrate on Sunday the resurrection, and on Passover we celebrate the deliverance, let us also be mindful and prayerful of those men and women who, like those airmen in World War II, so few are owed an obligation. So if you look at the number of people that are in the hospitals compared to the number of people working in the hospitals and in the medical fields, we owe a debt of gratitude. My father-in-law was a coin collector, and he actually had, I don't think that we will see this, Logan, a first edition Winston Churchill. I don't know what this was as far as the dollar value or the pound value. It was the pound then. And this was printed, this was actual hard currency, Winston Churchill. So Churchill's statement, even then, I think is very relevant to today. We have a debt of gratitude. Pray for our leaders. Pray for your neighbors. Pray for those men and women that are serving. And I talk about in the medical profession. I'm not just talking about the doctors and nurses, which are definitely included in this list, but the technologists, those that draw blood, those that sweep the floors, those that do the tests on your temperature. They've taken, I know at Vanderbilt University Hospital, the folks that used to do your car valet are now taking temperature readings. But remember this, it is Friday. Just like in days of old, it seems bleak. The good news is Sunday's coming. Have a great Passover Seder week. Have a great Easter Sunday. We'll talk to you next week.